Everybody, what's going on? Fabian for Liberty, fabianforliberty.com. The topic of this video is World War III drawing near. Now, to be honest, I don't like to post videos like these. I've been posting videos on YouTube for about 4 years, and even before then, I remember seeing videos from like 07, 08 talking about how World War III was coming like next week. And maybe some of those people saw things way farther out than I did. As someone who has read countless history books, particularly on World War I and World War II, it's really not that difficult to see how events right now are lining up to those past events. And I'd say even more importantly, how the global financial markets are playing into the prospect of World War III happening. And of course, I'm talking about the West against Russia. And we've seen, for those of you, I know people from all over the world watch these videos, but in the West, the media, it's like if it's like a stormy day or if it's like way too hot, chances are they're going to somehow blame that on Russia. I mean, that's to the level it's gotten here recently where everything is Russia's fault. And you cannot help but notice the propaganda of the corporate media is just running absolute rampant. Now, look, truth is Russia perfect? No. And I've said this all the time because it's not like I'm like in the bag for Russia. I'm in the bag for living in the country that has prosperity and peace. That's what I want. That's where I want my kids to grow up. That's why I don't even like to do these videos because I want prosperity and peace for my kids to grow up in a country where there is opportunity, where there aren't sick warmongers that all they do is, sit in smoke-filled rooms thinking and plotting how they can disrupt prosperity and peace in the world. But I'm going to go over just in the last week developments that have happened that to me show, look, whether World War III happens or not, these events that I'm going to cover now clearly show there's a buildup taking place. Now, beyond the rhetoric, because the rhetoric's been crazy as well. In the last week, just today, if you go to drudgereport.com, 3,000 U.S. troops have been sent over to Eastern Europe. That's in addition to the several divisions of National Guard that were sent to Ukraine to train Ukrainian troops as well. We've had over 750 pieces of advanced weaponry, Abrams tanks, helicopters, all kinds of things sent to these Eastern Bloc countries. I find that really, really interesting. I'll get to that in just a second. And then NATO is basically saying that Russian jets have been running mock drills in the Black Sea, targeting 2 NATO ships, one of them a Turkish ship, one of them a U.S. ship, and running these basically attack scenarios. And Russia, a high-level spokesman for the Russian government came out and said, yeah, that's true. That's just, we always do that kind of stuff. There's also been all kinds of reports about Russian bombers flying close to British airspace and other European country airspace as well. So where does this all end? Is this just, part of me sometimes thinks like, well, are the Russians somehow in on this? They know the global economy is going to implode. They know that the best time to cause that implosion is to mask it in some kind of greater regional war, a world war potentially. Remember, it was Obama who said, well, we need to translate my message to Vladimir. So is that an option? Is that a scenario? Now, with respect to the 750 pieces of weaponry that have been sent to Eastern Europe, when I read that, immediately I thought about Colonel Fletcher Prouty, who was a big whistleblower in the JFK assassination. He's the guy that's called Mr. X in the JFK movie. His videos are all on YouTube, interviews, very interesting guy. And he tells a story, and I think I'd mentioned this before on my podcast, where he was in Korea after the Korean War, and they were basically shipping off all of these tanks and all these weapons. And he was asking, well, where in the U.S. is that going back to? And they said, no, they're going actually to Vietnam. This is long before the Vietnam War even started. He was of the opinion that this Vietnam War had been planned in advance, and they were already sending all of this weaponry to that region to have it there. Well, where are all these weapons coming from? Are they coming from Afghanistan? Are they coming from Iraq? I think there's a high probability they probably are coming from Iraq. And to me, it shows, again, it's not proof, But to me, it shows that there are powers that be that are managing and planning this all. They've tried the economic warfare. Make no mistake, that's what it is. They've tried the economic warfare against the Russians by imploding their currency. Hasn't really stopped them. So now, are they crazy enough to basically provoke Putin into World War III? Because to make no mistake, that's what it's going to be. I mean, the Chinese have already come out and they said, hey, we basically side with the Russians over what's happening in Ukraine. And there's all kinds of other things that I'll be talking about in my webinar tomorrow, which, by the way, webinar was supposed to be on Friday on the global economic reset. There was a major power outage in the area that I live in, so we postponed it till Tuesday, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to break all that stuff down as well because I think it's so important, right? I think personally there will be a reset that happens that doesn't just come down around economic events, but comes down around geopolitical events as well. And I believe that these countries they already see the handwriting on the wall. It's like who blinks first, right? The other thing I want to just mention is that with any time you have the buildup of militaries along, I mean, think about it. If the Russians had a military buildup on the Mexico-U.S. border, what would Americans be saying? I mean, is it any mistake that, or any coincidence that Russia has the highest level of disdain for Americans since the Bolshevik Revolution? I mean, that's how crazy this is getting. Putin still has an 80% plus approval rating. So anyways, where does it go from here? If Russia had troops on the Mexico border, on the U.S., we would be doing everything we could. I should say the criminal government in Washington would be doing everything they could to stop that. So why is it that when we, or again, the criminal government in Washington stages a coup in Ukraine, sends all kinds of, provokes Russia by sending all kinds of NATO troops, and there's been calls now for a European army to be formed to fight against Moscow. If all that's being pushed up, Russia has to defend their national interest. And again, I'm not picking sides here. I'm just being objective, unlike what we hear from Jake Tapper or Wolf Blitzer. Okay, because we're not going to hear the truth from those guys. And for that matter, I haven't heard anybody on talk radio that is calling this for what it is. They all, buy into, well, Russia, they want to take over the world and all this other nonsense. So anyways, I'll let you decide on what you think. Love to hear your feedback on this. Is World War III drawing near? I'm Fabian Calvo, Fabian for Liberty. Thanks for watching. I'm out.